Well,
Hey,
hi, Warren. It's really good to see you again. Before we start, I want to put in a plug for the value of reunions because one of the reasons that I decided I wanted to interview you was, as you recall, we connected at the very end of our 40th reunion. We were, both hanging out. A lot of people have left, and we started talking, and we discovered that we had actually both been at the same dude ranch in the late 1960s. You were there 67, 68, 69. I was there for 69 for just a 2-week period. This was in Cody, Wyoming, the Triangle X Ranch. And it's actually where I met my now husband. So I thought that, I would have never known that about you. And it was really fun in the course of our reunion to make that connection. And then I learned more about your boat building. So,
well, what I remark on about that meeting was, so there were two people who were still cleaning up when everybody else had left. And then it turns out that well, I thought you had been recruited as I had been as a young, East Coast neophyte to go off to the West and learn how to ride and rope and go on pack trips and stuff like that. And so the same deal. Like, really? And we did our secret Shoshone handshake. And so it was truly remarkable that here we were. And the guy that I worked for, the son of the ranch owner, he also remarked to me when I was out there that East Coast people do not know how to sweep. And here we were sweeping away, and I was using every technique he had already taught me. So we must have been quite adept.
That's great. Well, so the way I want to start is that you've taught at the International Yacht Restoration School in Newport, Rhode Island since 2003. And tell us just a little bit about this school and what you do as a senior instructor of the boat building and restoration program, which sounds very official, and it is on your little Zoom thing here, which is kind of fun.
Really? Oh,
yes.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. Well, sometimes I'm pretty sure the senior means that I'm ancient, but it also means that I teach the second year of a 2-year boat building program here. And so they didn't want to call me managing instructor or first year instructor or any of these things. So they came up with senior, and I thought it looked official, so I stuck with it. But my program is as I say, is a 2-year program, but the first year, these people can have never seen a boat or done any woodworking, or they might have arrived on a boat from Washington State, someone has, and done all kinds of woodworking. But we have these people that are just looking for an alternative to whatever they're doing there. We have career changers. You have to have a high school diploma. Maybe they've just decided that they need to make something. And so in the first year, they have a 12-foot beetle cat, and the school was started for restoration, International Yacht Restoration School. So you have to have an old boat, and then slowly but surely, they will learn the techniques to build a boat, restore a boat, and in the end, a brand new beetle cat is launched in the spring. Mm-hmm. Well, they've done that for eons, the beetle cat, so it's pretty fine-tuned that first year, and it really does provide them with the basics of the whole program. And then they come to me, and we do usually different boats every year. Mm-hmm. And the range, I think the shortest has been 8 feet, and the longest is 38 feet. Mm-hmm. So it's a big range. The real difference in the second year is that through research and all kinds of sources of information, we actually generate all our own information. We don't use, they do use some patterns in the first year, but the second year, we have to generate everything.
Wow.
And the teams are bigger. People have to really get along. And it's also quite, well, it's less ambitious than it used to be. The lengths have diminished to around 24 feet at most. But the students learn that you really have to go for it to build a boat. So that's my job. All I do is prod them and make sure that they know what they might want to be doing. So
You also,
it's
sorry.
rare. Oh, it's just that it's a gift to me, really, because I get to build all kinds of things I never would have gotten a shot at in my own company. And I made really remarkable young people and people, you know, had whole lives before they arrived here, and then we're all thrust into this program, and it's been a gift, I have to say.
You've told me too that in the summer, I don't know whether it's every summer, but you basically said you teach in 2 weeks what you do in 2 years in at the school. You do sort of a summer, you're connected with some summer program too.
Yeah, that's at Wooden Boat Magazine has its own school, Wooden Boat School.
Mhm.
And in 1987, I helped my cousin teach a course up there. And then he's smarter than I am. He and his family sailed to Tasmania, and I was left holding the reins. So I continued to teach up there. Well, only during COVID did I miss a year since 87.
Mhm.
And that is a truly eclectic group that shows up there.
Mhm.
And it really isn't the same program in here 2 weeks because nobody would ever come here, but yeah, it's very compressed. It's all the same language and theory, and the food is fabulous. So that's why I go.
You sent me an article that was just fascinating, even though I didn't understand much of it at all, but it was the process that you did of recreating an older design. Can you, sort of give us a nutshell of that? Because I thought that was fascinating, the steps you had to go through, because this client wanted to essentially duplicate this amazing boat from the past.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's a Larian.
Yeah.
One thing within the Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts area, there's the name Herreshoff rises to the surface all the time. And so Nathaniel Herreshoff was basically a design genius. And his brother also had an incredible ability to run a company successfully.
Mm.
So you have your genius designer and your brother that can run the business. And so the Herreshoff Manufacturing Company produced exquisite yachts from, I better not say the dates, the Herreshoff people will catch me, but late 19th century up to 1945. Anyway, that project, we replicated Nathaniel Herreshoff's personal boat, this 1912 design Larian. And there were a lot of hoops to jump through. We had to get permission from MIT because they hold the rights to the plans, and tons of research. And we have Mystic Seaport, which has the original, and the original is always a great boon to any project. So you can rush down there and check things and make sure you're doing them correctly. And I had a fabulous, the owner and his wife, as a pair, they were the perfect clients. They
The
could
ones who
put up,
wanted to build the boat.
yeah, and it was pretty funny because I had submitted 3 designs for them. The guy showed up my shop and said, "I didn't know you existed." And of course, I'm in a barn behind my house. And anyway, when he chose Alarian, which I had always dreamed of building, I basically called my wife and said, listen to this. Can you believe he's going to go for it? And I was absolutely ecstatic. And I have to admit, it took 3 years to build. I did squeeze that article out of the process, but it really did sort of set the course, because having that in my pocket and then coming here, it showed, and I've dragged my students through all these steps, that where you find the information, whom do you speak with, and it just sort of broke ground for me. And I had already sort of practiced the Herreshoff techniques with a smaller boat, but then that one came along and sort of set the mark. And so anyway, that was just, I had my own show for about, well, 13 years, I guess, which I found harrowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have that genius business brother. I just winged it. So terrible.
It's actually pretty funny, because just a couple of nights ago, my husband and I were at a gathering, and there was a guy there who had lived in the East Coast for a while, and he was talking about the sailing and the boating he did. And he knew, and he had found out that I was from Massachusetts, and he turned to me and mentioned Herreshoff, like, looking at me like, and Herreshoff. And because of my talk with you last week, I actually knew what he was talking about. It was very bizarre. I couldn't speak to it, but I recognized the name. So that was kind of fun.
Well,
You
you
helped
have to run away. You have to, like you said about Williams, you have to go far afield to sort of get out from under the, not cloud, under the light. Anyway, the same with Herreshoff. You have to go to, well, not even France. They'll find you everywhere with that name. So
I'm curious, speaking about Williams, one thing you actually mentioned when we were talking earlier, that you mentioned that your English major has informed your teaching. Can you say a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know. It might sound self-serving, but
No, it doesn't.
I I mentioned to you that my wife Jackie was an English professor, and I would make outlandish statements like all of life is in literature, and she would basically be able to cite every instance that would verify that, or I read all those things, and it was like the perfect shower. She could tell you the temperature of the shower. That's the difference between the romantic reading English literature and the pro.
And the prof, yeah.
But I find that, I have these young people here, and they might have had a bumpy go in school, or it just wasn't necessarily for them. And then they come here and make something and pretty much light up. And I did okay in school, and I went to Williams and I read all those books, but at the end of it, I just needed something concrete. I had to make something. And so that's when I built the boat with my father. And he said it almost caused our divorce. But anyway, you learn a lot about empathy reading literature. And I just think I sort of get an understanding of what some of these people are up against. And it also provides a whole element of entertainment if you can sort of pull things out of books you've read and slide them into a discussion about cutting a rabbit in a stem of a yacht. It provides another whole dimension. But I think mostly empathy, it provides a perspective that I truly appreciate, and really am glad that I got the chance to read all those books and have those wizard professors, and And also it got me married to an English professor. So how could you go wrong?
And you told me a little story about, was it Bob, something that Bob Bell had said to you?
Oh, they staged Othello in Providence, and so I went and Bob, it was one of those, visiting. I don't know how it works. It was a Williams event. Paul
Okay.
Stryker, I think, organized it.
Hmm.
And so you got to have lunch with Bob afterwards. And he was part of Fort Hoosick. He was our professor, whatever.
Hmm.
I don't remember the title, but so he sort of knew me. And then he found out what I was doing. And he said, I kind of suspected you'd do something like that. And I don't know how he ever suspected such a thing, but it's kind of cool. It's like a stamp of approval.
Yeah,
I'll go with
absolutely.
that.
And
So,
and I'm just curious, another thing, what made you decide you wanted to go to reunions? I don't know how many you've been to, but I'm just curious, what just made you decide you wanted to do that?
well, my sort of, this is backtracking a little. My father, when I graduated from Williams, he was an ardent Williams guy.
Mm.
I had a football that played yard with purple laces that was this big, and you wound it up, and it played yard by yard.
God.
So
Jeez.
basically, my initial academic career was to make sure I could get into that school.
Uh-huh.
And so anyway, after I graduated, he asked me, so what'd you get out of it? And I said, well, one thing I do know is I have some remarkable friends and I'm going to have them for life.
Mhm,
And he said, you got it.
mhm,
You did okay,
mhm.
which sort of was my father in a nutshell. And so in this, I'm getting to the reunion, I promise.
No,
But
this is
anyway,
great. I keep thinking
so
about that old football.
yeah, when I decided, and I ended up going to Maine, learning how to build boats. Once again, we sort of had a discussion. So I've gone to Williams and I'm going to build boats. And he said, well, if you do this, all I ask is you do it 100%. Don't just go off and goof around and build a few boats and then wonder what you did. Go for it. And so he never saw this place. My mother did.
Mhm.
And, but it's one of those things where I'd sure like to show him because this is 100%. So the friends is probably why I go to reunion. I just like to check in on people, and we swept the floor together, and I actually I found it fun. I didn't want to admit what I did for a long time, and now that makers are okay, I guess I'll go to another one. But I really enjoyed going and seeing what people did and what they're up to. And I think that's what's cool about Williams is the size of it. You really sort of know of people. You might not have met, hung around with them while you're there, but you sort of had this shared experience. And that shared, might have been torture, but it was a shared experience. And so you can start your initial conversation as if you hadn't let up on the last one,
Yeah.
which I find kind of reassuring.
Well,
Guess
this
that's
has been great. Now, thank you. I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly why I go. It's not about revisiting the old times. It's about seeing what these people who were interesting back then are doing now, which, again, you with the boat building, I think it's just absolutely fascinating. And I'm really glad we have this opportunity, and I know others will enjoy watching this.
Well, I, I, I guess we better show at the 50th, huh?
Yeah, we better show our faces at the 50th. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Warren. We'll talk later.
All right, Nancy, thanks so much.
Bye-bye.